When I look at this Cubs roster, there's only one question that I ask myself continuously. And that's, who on this roster would I want to buy a beer for and hang out with? Nah, I know you're going, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about on this show. Chad's going to give his. We're going to pick one guy on the team now and then one forever Cub. And you guys can play along as well. I want to know what you think. But before we get into all the fun, do me a favor. Make sure that if you're not part of the Cubs baseball channel, that you do it right now. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell so you know when we're live. And if you like the videos and have a good time, give us a thumbs up. And don't forget, it took 45 years for the Tennessee Smokies to win the Southern League championship. Yeah, Tony La Russa was their manager the last time they won. And Harold Baines was a young, up-and-coming left-handed hitter that had good hands. Yeah, that's how long ago. And then they finally won this year with a lot of these Cubs prospects. They're bringing you the Cubs baseball channel, and they want me to tell everyone that they've got some really cool championship swag, and you can get it at Smokies Baseball /store. Yeah, don't forget the .com in there, but welcome back to the Cubs baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillispie. He's Chad Anderson, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. During COVID, I started a beer review show, and when I interviewed for the job that John Shambi has right now, they asked me if I had any questions for them. I said, if I get this job, do you mind if I go out before the first game and buy a round of beer for the bleachers? You know, I think that's what makes the Cubs the Cubs. You know, Harry was a Bud man and a Cubs fan. Okay. So that's what we're all about. And that's why, Chad, I'm going to pose this question to you. We're going to start with current Cubs. You get to pick one, and you got to tell me why you would want to go have a beer with this particular player.
So I was trying to scan real quick over the roster because there's like so many different opinions of what a guy would be like in a bar. You know, like think of the spectrum you have. Like you go from a guy like Marcus Stroman all the way to a guy like Kyle Hendricks, you know, like just polar opposites and everything in between on the team.
Wait, hold on. You got to let me say this. You're in there with Kyle Hendricks, and you're like breaking down, like, you know, just you're talking about the UFOs and how the spaceships work, and you know, who knows what because he's so smart, you know, the physics involved and stuff. And then Marcus Stroman, I bet he'd be a fun guy to go out with, you know,
for
like,
sure he would.
Yeah.
He would. Like Hendricks is the guy that's breaking down how the beer he's drinking was made. Like that's what
he's talking about hops.
Yeah. He's talking about hops. He's talking about the fermenting process, you know. That's what he's doing. Stroman is over here chugging it, wanting to know when we're doing shots in between all the beers.
I wonder if that's true. That'd be so funny.
Yeah, that would be. I think if we're picking one, I think my guy would be, and I wouldn't be able to keep up with him at all, is my guess. I'm pretty terrible at it now anyway, but Justin Steele is who I would go with.
I know Steele.
Yeah, I would say Justin, because he just, I don't know him. You know him, I don't know him. But from everything I see and the way he interacts, the way he's done appearances, just the way he's like hanging out, he's just like a guy. You know, you'd never know that Justin Steele, if you walked up and met him, you'd never know that he had a 3.06 ERA, a 16-5 record, was the ace of the Cubs, and was in the Cy Young running at one point.
Right, and he's a huge Bama fan.
Yes, exactly. So I think that Justin Steele, we'd get along great. So I think Justin Steele would be my guy. I think that would be the most like real, authentic, fun but not insane night at a bar would be with Justin Steele.
Oh, I like that. I like where you're going. I didn't even think Steele. You know, I didn't even think Steele. Like, great guy, loves to talk, would be fun. You know, you just sit there and who knows where the conversation would go, but he'd want to talk about baseball probably, or college football. Great pick. And Kyle Hendricks, I would think that maybe instead of beer, he'd probably want craft cocktails. I don't know why I would think that, but I just
100%.
would. Yeah, you're right. Like Marcus Stroman seems like he'd be fun to have beer with. Like you'd probably get into some interesting conversations. I could see him wanting to talk politics. Just because he's kind of political. To me though, I'm gonna go with one of the guys you love, and that's Yan Gomes, man. Like he'd probably be like, hey, like just full of energy. Who knows? He could go either way. Like he may be one of these guys that's like just has all this energy, and then you're like, hey, what are you drinking? And he's like, oh man, I've never drank anything in my life. And he's like walking up the side of the wall. He just kind of reminds me of that guy that's on his third Monster Energy drink. But I think that's why we like him so much. But maybe he's one of these guys. It's like, hey man, I work hard and I play hard, and that's what I'm hoping for, right? Where it's like we're gonna go. And we're going to try some really good craft beer. And then after we do that, we're going to do some hazy IPAs. We're going to enjoy those. And then we're going to switch it up. We're going to go on a brewery tour in Chicago, right? Like around Wrigley, all the way up to the north side. We're going to find Pipeline. We might go there. Who knows, right? Revolution, they have good beers. I'm all about that place. What is it? Club 400. I know those guys want to shout out. I'm giving them a shout out. But I just feel like it would not get boring if Yan Gomes was the guy you were drinking beer with.
Yeah, a quick Yan Gomes story. I used to host a radio show, a morning show in Nashville. This was 10 years ago. And Yan Gomes was actually a guest on our morning show 10 years ago. I believe he was with the Indians at that time. And he was one of maybe the first or the second player ever out of Brazil. But what threw me off about him was I just didn't expect this. He was kind of quiet, like on the interview. Like he wasn't very rambunctious. He was kind of reserved, quiet. Just he was a good interview, good guy, super nice guy. But just kind of almost like a Hendrix, where he's just kind of that mellow. But that was 10 years ago. So maybe he's changed a little bit.
I think he has. I met him at a University of Tennessee baseball banquet.
Yeah.
Because he played baseball there, and he was a talker. Like, he was coming at you with a lot of energy. Yeah. So, you know what? It's also comfort. You know what I mean, too? Sure, or it could have just been that he didn't feel like being up early in the morning. What time was your show? What time was that show at?
It was 8 to 11, but he could have been like, got to get on the phone with this schmuck and talk about Indians baseball in Nashville.
Right. Who cares about this? Get out of here.
Yeah, Indians baseball in Nashville. They're just like beating down the door for more Cleveland Indians or Guardians.
Now they're Guardians.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, he was one of the favorites there in Cleveland. All right, I said we'd do now, and then I said we would do forever Cubs. All right.
Yeah.
So who goes first here?
I will. You're the guy on the channel.
All right, you go first.
So it's so hard, man, because if it kind of goes back to that, what kind of time are you looking for? Because Sandberg and Santo, just all-time favorite guys, for me. But if you're talking about a beer and a crazy night, I'd honestly be torn between two, and that would be Rod Beck or Travis Wood. Like both of those guys, can you imagine the stories that you would get out of Rod Beck or Travis Wood? Either one, sitting at a bar drinking beer.
I haven't heard Travis Wood's name in forever, man.
Man, he was one of my favorites. Yeah, one of my favorites. He was such a great hitting pitcher, Arkansas guy. Just the camo, the redneck style. Like he was the guy, right? Like he was cool. And I just think he was hammered at that parade. Or if he wasn't, he looked like a guy that was hammered. He looked like he got up early that day.
Right.
But I would go Beck or Wood. I'd probably lean Travis Wood. That guy I always loved him as a Cub. Was such a big piece. He kind of emerged in the Dale Swaim era with the Cubs.
Ugh.
And so, yeah, but that's when he emerged. And so I think it would just be a lot of fun if you're able to sit down and have some drinks with him.
All right, look, the obvious answer here, Chad, is you would want to go out with Harry Carey, but he wasn't a player, right? I mean, I guess he's an all-time Cub, but
I wouldn't ask.
Yeah,
Right?
I would, but I'd pay the price the next day, right? It would be one of those things where I'd hate myself in the morning. And I've heard all the stories, read the books, love when Bob Brenly talks about going out with him and, what it was like with Harry and Where's Harry, the book by Steve Stone. I think it's one of the best reads. Still love that book. But the answer is the guy that you mentioned in the very beginning. You said, well, is it Ryne Sandberg? No, I love Rhino, but it's not. The answer is Ron Santo. You want to go with Ron Santo. Ronnie. I mean, yeah. I knew him. Like, I didn't get to go out and have drinks with him, but they would leave the restaurants open for him when the Cubs were in town because they loved him so much. You could not love the guy. Like, we loved him on the radio. We loved him on TV. Anything he did it in a way where people just got who he was. And that was, he was genuine. He was funny. He'd light up the room. He'd come in and he couldn't get enough of him. He just had a way about him. And that would be the guy that you would want to go out and have a beer with. But I'll tell you what, Travis Wood is a great answer because I wasn't thinking that. So I'm going to, since, you kind of went away from the obvious, the other guy is Jeff Samardzija. Yeah, Shark. Shark, look, great athlete and an all-time great partier. Legendary, man. Like, the guy was just awesome. Like, he took care of his people, like he was a guy that picked up the tab. He made sure that everyone had a good time. He had your back, he was huge. You're not messing with this guy. When I look back over my career, he's one of my top guys, and I think like he had a really good big league career and he underachieved. I think he even could have even done better in his big league career, but I know he's fun. Yeah, I've heard stories, and I can even remember being out when he was with the Smokies. So, Shark. I didn't even come into this, and I felt like taking Santos just like, that's like such an obvious answer, right? So you got to you come up with Travis Wood, which is a great answer. How about the guy that went to Notre Dame and could have went into the NFL, and if you went to the same bar as him after a game, he would pick up your tab for you, and just that kind of guy in the minor leagues and then in the big leagues, had a good career, and he was just always down to earth, man. Didn't take himself too seriously and fun.
Yeah. No, he would definitely be one. I could see that. And because football players are always like, it's always a great time, right? I mean, when he was such a star athlete with Notre Dame and then to emerge and take on baseball as his career, which was such a great choice for him. Shark's a great call. I mentioned Rod Beck too.
That was a good one.
Yeah, the shooter would be great. I would just get a little worried about where things would go with old Shooter. Like a Shooter, he reminds me of like a John Daly of Major League Baseball. Like he's a guy that he'd love to have a drink, easygoing, easy to connect with. Wasn't he living out of the RV and stuff at spring training?
I don't know, but the crazy thing that people don't know is that your dad used to be one of the biggest partiers I've ever met too. And this is true. I mean, we call him Catfish. Like I would love to see him with some of these guys and us as part of the bandwagon, the entourage, with old Catfish running around out there.
When Catfish made an entrance 15 years ago, you knew he was in the house.
Came in hot.
He did. He comes in, double barrels, guns blazing. You knew somebody was in the house at that point. Yeah,
you definitely did. Hey guys, what do you think? Who do you want to have a beer with? You tell me. Is it Ron Santo? Is it Shark? Is it Travis Wood? Is it Kerry Wood? Is it Pryor? If you get one current guy and then you got one all-time Cub. But leave that in the message section. I can't wait to see what some of these answers are. And thank you guys for hanging out with us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. If you're not a subscriber, become one right now. Go Cubs.